Hello my gorgeous friends of Webflow, it's your friendly neighborhood Francesco from Supasaido here. In today's video, we're bringing some retro futuristic vibes straight into Webflow. We'll recreate the neon glow effect that used to light up the previous version of Webflow's own website. That soft, glowing outline that made elements feel alive. But here's the twist. Instead of manually picking 5 different colors or setting endless box shadows by hand, we'll build a parametric system powered entirely by CSS Variables and the color mix function. You'll see how a single base color can generate every layer of the glow automatically, and how, with Webflow's variable modes, we can switch between entire color palettes in seconds. If you've ever wanted to make your design shine, literally, while keeping your setup clean and scalable, well, this is going to be the perfect tutorial for you. If you're looking forward to it as much as I am, stick around, and if you find my videos helpful and want to support my work, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. But now, if you're ready, let's dive in. Before we start building today's effect, the neon glow effect you might remember from the previous version of Webflow's website, I want to quickly go through the page structure I've set up for this demo. Now, the structure itself doesn't really matter for the effect we're going to recreate, but you know me, I don't like to leave anything to chance. Plus, there are a couple of details that might be interesting if you ever want to build a similar layout. So, very briefly, the first element, as usual, is a section, with the class section. This class doesn't actually affect any of its properties, it's just there for structure. Inside the section, we have a container with the class main-container, which we're using to apply a 6 rem padding on all sides and to limit the max width to 90 rem. Inside the container, we have, you guessed it, a div block with the class section_content-wrapper. We set its display to flex, align everything to the center along the x-axis and add a 2 rem gap. Now, the most interesting part of the layout for today's effect is the card itself. A simple div block with the class card. We've given it a max width of 20 rem, just to make sure it doesn't expand too much even if there's space available inside the parent container. It has a very dark gray background, almost black, a 4 pixel border radius and a transparent border, which is one of the elements we'll animate on hover. Let's put aside the properties related to the neon effect for now and quickly finish reviewing the card structure. Inside the card, we have a div block called card_content-wrapper. This is the element that holds the actual content of the card. It's displayed as a flex container with a vertical direction, a 2 rem gap and a 2 rem padding on all sides. The overflow of this element is set to hidden, and we'll see why in just a moment. Inside the content wrapper, there's an embed element containing the SVG code for the logo you see at the top of each card. Then, we have another div block called card_image-wrapper. This one has a width set to 150%, meaning it's 1.5 times wider than the space available inside the parent container, the card content wrapper. That's why the content wrapper must have overflow hidden. If we reset that property, you'll see that the image overflows horizontally because of the 150% width. Of course, it doesn't have to be 150%. The idea is simply to make the image appear as if it's spilling out of the card. You can reduce the width if you prefer, as long as it's greater than 100%. Just keep in mind that reducing the width will also proportionally reduce the image's height, which might make the layout feel a bit less dynamic. Personally, 150% feels like a good balance, even though in this demo, the images were created with a specific aspect ratio. We've also set a 16:9 aspect ratio on the image wrapper. This ensures that the wrapper, and therefore the image inside it, always maintains the same height, regardless of the image's original proportions. So now that we've covered the structure and identified the elements that make up the core of the effect, we're ready to start building it. And we'll do that using one of the most powerful and underrated features in Webflow, CSS Variables, particularly the ability to create modes linked to collections of variables, and to use functions like color mix to define their values dynamically. The image wrapper also has overflow hidden, because it has a 2-pixel border radius. If the overflow were set to visible, the image would ignore those rounded corners and bleed out. You can test this easily. Increase the border radius to, say, 20 pixels, and you'll see that the corners of the image stay cleanly rounded only because the wrapper has overflow hidden. In short, the wrapper transfers its carved borders to the image. Let's bring the radius back to 2 pixels. That's more than enough for what we need. Lastly, we've set the position of the image wrapper to relative, and we'll see why in a second. Inside this wrapper, we have the actual image, with a class card_image. To make sure it always fills the available space, regardless of its proportions, we've set both width and height to 100%. We've also set the object fit property to cover, so the image maintains its aspect ratio and fills the entire wrapper without distortion. Now, here's why the image wrapper needs to be positioned relative. It contains another div, the card_image-overlay. This element is positioned absolute, set to full, so it covers the entire wrapper area. It uses a linear gradient with 3 color stops. The first one is fully transparent. The second is a dark gray with about 66% opacity. And the third is almost the same shade but with 80% opacity. The result is a subtle gradient that slightly darkens the right edge of the image, making it blend more smoothly with the rest of the card. If we disable the gradient, you'll notice that the image's right side becomes visibly brighter. Still inside the card content wrapper, we have one last div, the card_text-wrapper, which contains the text content of the card. This one is also displayed as flex with a 2 rem gap. Yes, again, because we like consistency. Inside we have 2 text elements. The first one has the class card_big-text and uses a semi-bold weight, a 2.3 rem font size, line height of 1, unitless, white color, and slightly negative letter spacing, expressed in EM. Using EM makes sure the spacing scales proportionally with the font size. The second element, card_small-text, has a regular weight, 400, font size of 0.875 rem, again, slightly negative letter spacing in EM, and the text transform property set to uppercase. Alright, that's the whole structure of our section. Now let's go back to the card and focus on the properties that are relevant to the neon glow effect we're about to build. In addition to the transparent border we mentioned earlier, the key feature is a series of 6 box shadows, 3 inner and 3 outer. All of them have their offsets set to 0 and their color set to transparent. In other words, they're completely invisible by default, and that's intentional. We want the neon glow to turn on only when the card is hovered and remain completely off otherwise. To complete the setup, we've added 2 transitions, one for the box shadow properties and one for the border color. Both transitions last 300 milliseconds and use a cubic ease out curve, just enough to make everything feel smooth and responsive. The magic starts inside the Variables panel. You can open it either by pressing V on your keyboard or by clicking the corresponding button in the left sidebar. Since we're about to create a set of variables for our neon glow effect, let's rename the default collection to something truly creative. Neon Collection. Once inside the collection, let's add our very first variable. And here's the fun part. This will become the only independent variable in the entire project. All the others will be derived from it using the color mix function. But let's go step by step. Because we'll use this variable to control the neon glow effect, we'll obviously set its type to color. And since it's the source from which all others will be generated, let's name it simply base. To stay organized, we'll prefix it with neon slash. So the full name becomes neon slash base. That little slash automatically creates a variable group inside the collection, meaning we'll end up with a neon group that contains our base variable. We'll start with a bluish purple tone and set its value to 1F51FF. Now, here's something interesting. We'll never actually use this variable directly. It won't be assigned to any CSS property. Not the border, not the box shadows. It truly is a base variable. All the colors used in the glow effect will be derived from this one through color mix. And I want to emphasize this because many people assume that every variable must correspond to a property used somewhere in the project. But sometimes defining a base variable like this makes your setup much more flexible and easier to maintain, as you'll see in a moment. Alright, let's add another variable, and to make sure it lands inside our neon group, we'll click New Variable right under the one we just created. This one will also be a color variable, of course, and we'll name it Strong. We'll use it to power the smallest box shadows, both inner and outer. The bright outlines that give the card that crisp neon edge. And here's the cool part. We'll define this color based on our base variable using the color mix function. To access it, click the little purple dot and scroll to the bottom of the list. There it is, color mix. Webflow will insert a kind of template that we can fill in. Let's adjust it together. The first parameter, OKLCH, defines the color space we're using. For the second parameter, which is initially black, we'll click the purple dot again and select our neon base variable. The third parameter, by default 50%, defines how much of that color we're keeping. Let's change it to 96%. Then we'll set the fourth parameter from white to transparent. Finally, we can safely remove the fifth one. We won't need it here. That leaves us with color mix in OKLCH, our base variable, 96% transparent. So what's going on here exactly? The color mix function blends two colors together in a specific color space. Its basic structure is color mix in color space, color 1 percentage, color 2 percentage. In our case, OKLCH is the color space. It's perceptually uniform, meaning small numeric changes look equally gradual to the human eye. The base variable is our first color, the main input. 96% tells the browser, keep most of the base color, so it remains bright and dominant. Transparent is the second color. Essentially no visible addition, it's just there to soften the result slightly. We remove the final parameter because we don't need to define both percentages. When we tell the browser to mix 96% of the base color, it automatically knows that the remaining 4% should come from the second color, in this case transparent. So there's no need to specify that again. The result? A vivid, saturated color that's perfect for the sharpest part of the glow, the layer closest to the card's edge. Now that we understand how color mix works, we can move a bit faster through the next three variables, since they all follow the same pattern, just with different mixing values. And if we now wanted to test a different base color, say pink, well, that will actually take us about 30 seconds, or maybe even less. Follow me, let's see it in action. Next up is mid. We'll use this one for the intermediate box shadows, the ones that extend a bit further out and help build depth. Its function looks like this: color mix in OKLCH, our base variable, 30% transparent. This time only 30% of the base color is preserved, meaning the color becomes much softer and more diffused. Perfect for the mid-range glow. Then we create soft. This one is for the widest, most diffused shadows, the ones that make the glow look spacious and atmospheric. Here's how it looks: color mix in OKLCH, our base variable, 20% transparent. By keeping just 20% of the base color, we get an extremely faint, airy hue that fades gently into the background. Finally, we'll define border. This one, of course, will be used for the card's border color itself. Here, instead of blending with transparency, we are mixing the base color with white, about 15%. This makes the border slightly lighter and cleaner, ensuring it stands out against the darker background and complements the glow nicely. And that's it for the setup. Now we can close the variables panel, again just press V, and get back to the card itself. We won't touch anything in the base state, since everything is already configured there. We'll simply select the hover state and make a few assignments. For the border, set its color to the variable neon border. For the outer shadows, first shadow, blur 300 pixels, size 20 pixels, color neon soft. Second shadow, blur 30 pixels, size 4 pixels, color neon mid. And then third shadow, blur 6 pixels, size 1 pixel, color neon strong. And now for the inner shadows. First shadow, blur 120 pixels, size 10 pixels, color neon soft. Second shadow, blur 30 pixels, size 4 pixels, color neon mid. And third shadow, blur 4 pixels, size 1 pixel, color neon strong. And that's it. Click anywhere outside the card to exit hover mode. You don't even need to switch to preview mode. And the effect comes to life instantly. It's simple, elegant, and looks pretty spectacular, doesn't it? To test this effect with a different color, all we need to do is open the variables panel again, just press V on your keyboard, open our variable collection and click New Mode. Now, what exactly is a mode? In Webflow, a mode is like a variation or preset of your variable values. Each mode stores a different configuration, for example, different colors, while keeping the same variable structure. This means you can switch between entire color systems with just one click, without redefining anything. So let's create a new mode and call it pink. For the mode type, we'll leave it as manual, which is the default. We don't want automatic in this case because we don't want our modes to be linked to the breakpoints. Once the new mode is created, all we have to do is change the value of our base variable from blue to deep pink, FF1493. And that's it. Since all the other variables are derived from the base one, they'll automatically update their values. No additional work required. Pretty amazing, right? And since creating a new mode was this easy, why stop here? Let's go ahead and create a few more, say gold, green and red, so we'll have more fun to play with later. The process is identical to what we just did for the pink mode, so I'll create those behind the scenes. If you're curious about the exact color I used, you'll find everything inside the clonable project. As usual, the link is in the description. Alright, let's now close the variables panel and see how we can actually use these modes in practice. Select one of the cards, go to the style panel and click the plus icon next to variable modes. You'll see all the modes we've created, automatically grouped under the neon collection. Now just pick one, any one you want, except for base, since that's our default. Let's select pink. Hover over the card and bam! The entire color combination updates instantly. And here's something important to note. Changing a mode doesn't affect only the selected element. It changes the mode for the class applied to that element. So, if multiple elements share the same class, in our case card, they'll all update together. But what if you wanted to use different modes? Say on different pages or even on different cards in the same layout? Well, there are two ways you could do it. One's a bit quick and dirty, and the other is smarter and more scalable. Let's start with a quick one. The first way is to use combo classes. After resetting the mode back to default, the blue one, we can duplicate the card by pressing Command D or Control D. Then apply a combo class to the first card, for example cc-mode-pink, and set its variable mode to pink. You'll see the first card glowing in pink, while the second remains blue. Now let's add a third card. Give it the combo class cc-mode-gold and assign it the gold mode. You'll end up with 3 cards, each one glowing in a different color. Simple and effective, right? But it's not the most elegant solution and definitely not the most flexible. So let's look at the smart way instead. This approach doesn't use combo classes at all. Instead, it takes advantage of one of Webflow's most powerful features: components and their variants. Here's how we'll do it. First, remove the extra cards, so we're left with just one. Then, turn this card into a component, using the shortcut Command or Control Shift A. This isn't going to be a full tutorial on components, so we'll skip some of the details today. But we'll focus on what matters for our case, the modes. So let's name our new component card and click Create. We'll ignore things like setting different images or text for each instance and focus on the variant system. Within the component edit mode, with the card element selected, open the style panel, and in the style selector, click the component variants icon. Right now we have just one variant, the default one, using the base mode. Let's click the plus icon to create a new variant and name it pink. Then simply assign the pink mode to this variant. Reopen the pop-up and create another variant, gold. We'll assign the gold mode to this one. Repeat the process for green and red. Now we have one variant for each mode. Let's assign the base variant to the card and exit component editing mode. On the right hand side in the properties panel, you'll now see a new property called variant. This drop-down lets you select which variant, and therefore which color mode, you want to apply to each instance of the component. Let's duplicate the component twice. creating two new instances. Assign gold to the second one and green to the third. What happens next is exactly what you'd expect. Hover over the first card, it glows blue, the default variant. Hover over the second, it glows gold. Hover over the third, it glows green. With just a few steps, we've used one of Webflow's most powerful systems, components and variants, to control the glow color independently for each card we add to the project. It's simple, flexible, and honestly, pretty amazing. I hope this gave you a few ideas for how you can use modes and components together in your own projects, because this combination can make your design system incredibly powerful and adaptable. And now, as usual, before wrapping up, let's take a moment to summarize everything we learned today, just to keep things clear in our minds and lock it all in. And there we have it, our neon glow effect is complete. We built a clean, reusable system that powers a beautiful glowing border using just a handful of CSS variables. We learned how to use color mix to generate multiple glow layers from a single base color, organized everything neatly inside Webflow's variables panel, and explored variable modes and component variants to switch color themes in seconds. The result? A sleek, flexible effect that looks stunning in any color, and that you can easily adapt for your own designs. Don't forget there's a clonable project linked in the description so you can play around with the effect yourself and test different color combinations. I'm really curious to see what you'll come up with. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe and hit that notification bell for more Webflow tips and tricks. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Matane!